Welcome back into Wake Up America. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki was asked why journalists are not going to be taking the standard ride-alongs with the Border Patrol. She was then asked about transparency in the Biden administration. In today's Ssaki Dodge.
I think we've seen, watching a number of the reports you all do, a number of Border Patrol officials who are quoted in them, who appear in them, and certainly from the White House, we support that. It's coordinated through the Department of Homeland Security, and I'd point you to them for any additional questions about the logistics of press access.
But our reporters used to be able to get ride-alongs during the Trump administration, and you all came in and promised to be the most truthful and transparent administration, and you all, oversee the Department of Homeland Security. So if you all wanted to grant access to the press, couldn't you just tell DHS to do it?
Again, we fully support transparency, and I would encourage you to talk to the Department of Homeland Security about any requests you have for press access or what you're looking to accomplish at the border.
That was a perfect question. I don't know what journalist that was, but that was an absolutely legitimate and reasonable question, and Jen Psaki couldn't answer that. I want to welcome back in our panel this morning. Former Lieutenant Governor of New York, Betsy McCoy, is with us. Project 21 National Advisory Board member Christopher Arps is here, and editor-at-large of The Hill. And joining us for the very first time on this Thursday morning, Steve Clemens. Nice to see you again.
Good morning.
Jen Psaki, that was like a layup of a question. Ride-alongs with the Border Patrol. I used to work in California. We had reporters do that all the time. Very standard practice, but not with the Biden administration, which campaigned on transparency, Steve Clemens.
No, I know. I think it's a real problem. I mean, I think when you've got something in the news as important and consequential as what's happening at the border, they ought to be providing as much press access. Well, at least as much as they say they're providing, and I think that it was good for that reporter for pressing that.
Well, I hope you've got your save the date, March 25th, 64 days into Joe Biden's presidency. He will deliver his very first press briefing and take questions. Betsy, you've been in politics for a long time. You were the former lieutenant governor of New York. Why would you announce this 9 days, a full 9 days in advance? The news cycle will be totally different on the 25th.
Well, that's right. And we should be talking about exactly what reporters would see on those ride-alongs with the Border Patrol. They would see that most of the unaccompanied minors coming across the border are not little children, even though that's what's depicted in the photographs. We're not talking about teddy bears here. We're talking about teenagers.
Yeah.
Teenagers 15 to 17, almost all male, who will then be placed in school systems around the country. Even though they don't speak any English, they're traumatized. They will need enormous psychological counseling, health care, tutoring, and almost all the attention of a classroom teacher. So Border Patrol agents have a lot to show reporters if they're able to bring them along on those rides.
Yeah, let's not forget about the 4 terrorists that were apprehended. All it takes is one, but they caught 4. How many more slipped through the borders? That's a real concern as well. I want to play a soundbite from Joe Biden. September 2019, he was on the debate stage. He was trying to become president, and he told us very clearly how he would handle any crisis at the southern border. Take a listen.
I would, in fact, make sure that we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum. They deserve to be heard. That's who we are. We're a nation that says if you want to flee and you're fleeing oppression, you should come.
Christopher Arps, I'll tell you what, if I am in Mexico or Central America or Iran, Turkey, or Yemen, and I hear that, I'm coming to the border.
Rob, a surge is exactly what we've seen. We've heard reports that over 100,000 people crossed the border illegally last month. We're hearing reports that the cartels, the smugglers, have 2 million people that are in their pipeline right now to cross over the border. So, of course, the media or the administration doesn't want the media down there showcasing people just coming over the border. This looks almost like at night, when you turn on the light and you just see roaches and all kind of critters just coming out of the woodwork. I mean, I'm not trying to compare these people to roaches or anything like that, but it's just that bad. They're coming over like a sieve.
Steve, the situation right now, Alejandro Mayorkas calls the worst we've seen in 20 years. This is going to end up being a generational border crisis. Do you agree?
Well, I absolutely agree. And look, I think that we've gone from a situation in which during the Trump administration, I mean, the facts are that that kind of cross-border immigration really, really came down to very, very low numbers. And for whatever they saw with the Biden administration come in, many, many more people have targeted that border and getting across the border because they think they'll be welcomed by the new administration and coming in, and that's a real problem. So you have not just a surge in need and people wanting to come here for that, but they see a green light, and that's a problem. It's going to be a problem for the Biden administration. Living up to what it said is what's going to be the humane process at scale for dealing with this number of people coming across. So it's going to be a defining challenge for the administration.
I just want to give you some numbers here. The Texas Department of Public Safety said yesterday that 500 unaccompanied minors are crossing the border. So 500 kids are crossing the border every single day. Sex trafficking, this is very good for the sex trafficking industry, which gangs on both sides of the border, I should say, support what's happening right now. And kids are more profitable, that they are in the sex trafficking world. This is beyond crisis right now. What's happening in Dallas? They opened up the Dallas Convention Center, Betsy, to 3,000 teenage boys. And the city of Dallas said, well, besides the Red Cross, we don't have anybody to work there. So they're looking for volunteers, citizens to come in and try to manage the situation. They're totally underprepared.
And the fact is that this border crisis is not just at the border. It's going to affect people all over the nation. I've discussed the school systems. It's going to have a big impact on healthcare because between 4 and 6% of the people coming in who are tested test positive for COVID. But nevertheless, they're still able to get on buses and they're transported to all parts of the country, and they're coming sick. So at the same time that we're trying to control a pandemic, reopen our economy, return life to normal, people are coming into our communities who lack health care and are coming in COVID positive. That's a big issue. And not to mention the impact on employment. Just when businesses are opening up, these are the lowest wage employees, and they're competing with our own Americans who are struggling to regain their jobs.
All right, Betsy, I want to pivot here, and I want to talk about American citizens for a second. What's happening at the border is absolutely a crisis, but what's happening inside our borders here in the U.S. has been tragic over the last year as well. Here is Rochelle Walensky changing what fundamentally changes the way we look at how we've treated our lives for the last year. Take a listen to this.
As soon as our guidance came out, it became very clear that 6 feet was among the things that was keeping schools closed. And in that context, science evolves. So there has been one study that was published late last week that demonstrated in Massachusetts, where there's generally 100% mask wearing, that 3 feet was actually safe. Student rates and teacher rates of disease were the same in 6 feet versus 3 feet.
We'll start with you. This is the biggest insult I think I've heard yet with the coronavirus. Okay, there was a study in Massachusetts that says, wait a second, 6 feet, that seems arbitrary. It turns out 3 feet's okay. The 6 foot number is over 100 years old. It comes from when they were trying to prevent people from getting the flu a long, long time ago. This is how bad the information has been from the medical community. And that's Rochelle Walensky talking. She's the CDC director. This is how bad the information has been. This is why the American people don't trust the medical community or the government. So now it's 3 feet of social distancing.
For schools first came out, and I saw
it's
6
a joke.
feet apart, place the desks 6 feet apart and open the windows. I thought this could have been written in 1950 or even 1900.
Betsy, it could have been written in 1715.
Right. The 6 foot designation was arbitrary. And in addition, we have enormous technologies that deactivate viruses in the air, remove them from surfaces like desks and chairs and doorknobs. All of that could have been used. But let me point out that in the 2 bills that
But Betsy, hold on. We're super tight on time. I want to get Steve in here just because he's joining us for the first time. There's absolutely no money. You make a great point. Steve, I want to give you the final thought on this. Basically, 3 feet in my book is not social distancing. If you're 3 feet away from
somebody. No, it's not. I think you hit on a very key point, and that is, and I've been frustrated in the past with lots of things. Can we eat eggs or not eat eggs? What's cholesterol duty? What not?
Right.
When you I still have a beef about that. But you want to look at this issue of, okay, we're trying to get people to respect science, but then science ends up being a slippery slope or interpreted in different ways. I think it really sends troubling signals out to the American public, and I would agree with you. To jump from 6 feet to 3 feet all of a sudden, because that's the pragmatic
And a foot and a half,
way
it's going to be a
not
foot and a
to
half
screw
after
people.
that.
Yeah.
And then it's just,
Yeah, no, it's a real problem. And,
Yeah.
I think that's not the way to get the American public to trust and believe science.
All right, we're totally out of time. I wish we had more time. I look forward to having you all back. Such great conversation as always. Chris Arps, Betsy McCoy, Steve Clemens, very good to see you. I will say, by the way, this is going to put the teachers' unions in a very tough spot with 3 feet of social distancing, and that's going to be a topic for another day.